Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. We're visiting with Rini Paiva from the National Inventors Hall of Fame. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being here. I think some people would be astonished to know that the National Inventors Hall of Fame is located in North Canton, Ohio.
That's right.
How did that happen?
So some years back, the National Inventors Hall of Fame Museum was actually located in Akron, Ohio. And as the years went by, the decision was made to move it back to the D.C. area just because there's a little bit more of a tourist population over there. But by the time we did that, we had already started running some education programs and other programs, and Northeast Ohio just made sense to keep as our headquarters. We have many people who work for us, and we didn't want to have to uproot those folks.
So you were able to make connections with the different educational institutions, school districts, as well as we've got lots of colleges in town.
Absolutely. So the National Inventors Hall of Fame, it started off to focus on recognizing patented inventors, but along the way, it started these education programs I referenced, and one of them is Camp Invention. Mm-hmm. It's a program for K through 6th graders, and you're going to find it here in Northeast Ohio, but it is all across the country, and yes, you will find it in schools, probably over 1,200 schools this summer. Over 120,000 kids are going to go through it.
Let's talk about that. Is there something in us that just dies? Because I can remember our own boys being in school, and every year they had to invent something. And then there was almost like this science fair of their inventions. And, oh boy, I will embarrass him now, but one of my kids came up with the shortsters. And what they were he cut a pair of pants at the knee and Velcroed the bottom to the top. And you could wear them as long pants, or if it got warm out, you just pulled off the bottoms and you had shorts on. Brilliant, right? Kids come up with these ideas, and then it stops at some point. So is that what you're trying to do? Continue to keep this alive in children? Completely.
That's the idea. So often when kids are kids, they don't know that they have to pay any attention to boundaries. They just come up with the wildest ideas, and that's one of the things that Camp Invention is trying to do, is get them to think outside the box. They're involved in hands-on, informal STEM learning. So if you're familiar with the term STEM.
Remind everyone what that stands for.
It's science, technology, engineering, and math. Mm-hmm. These are subjects that are so important for our upcoming generations to be aware of and to learn about. And again, being in this environment where they can be involved in hands-on informal learning, it really encourages them maybe to think about ideas for the future that they wouldn't have in other circumstances.
And no one's saying you can't, or they're not thinking to themselves, I can't. They've got an idea and they can run with it.
Absolutely. These shorts that you're talking about that your son invented, that's exactly the kind of creative, open thinking that we would want a kid in Camp Invention to participate in. And it's not just, ideas like that. It could be anything from keeping a little sibling out of a bedroom to a new way to make glasses. It could be anything. The ideas that the kids come up with are so varied, and it's so fun to see them involved.
Do you get a chance to actually see firsthand some of these ideas coming out of the younger set? Has anything just stunned you?
I think that it doesn't matter when you go to visit a Camp Invention site. You are always amazed at the ingenuity that these kids are demonstrating. We really, again, are trying to get them to see inventing as something that's fun. And, there's more to the inventing process than just coming up with the idea. You've got to think about what you're going to do with it. How are you going to develop it? How are you going to market it? How are you going to put it into manufacturing and production? So it opens up a whole world of ideas for them to be thinking about.
I think Shark Tank has made a big difference, hasn't it? Spurred the imagination again to get people thinking, well, I get ideas every once in a while. The movie Joy for instance, I think just really made people think, when you get these ideas, go for it, make it. Don't just say somebody ought to.
That's exactly right. I think that people need to feel empowered to know that they can invent something. We work very closely with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and I don't think that people realize the power of patents. That's one of the things that the kids in Camp Invention are talking about, and what it can do for them in terms of leveraging economic impact and creating a business. Things that they may not be thinking about too much maybe when they're 8 years old, but when they get to be 18 and thinking about what to study in college, it will make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, like we were saying before we went on the air, there was a young man here not too long ago who had invented this great way to measure medicine. And it's a top that you put on the bottle, pour it, and it automatically measures out the exact amount. It was ingenious. And I just thought, now how in the world did you come up with that? What's amazing now, Rini, is the prototypes that are available because of 3D printing. You can put into a computer your idea, and then suddenly you are holding a prototype of it, and then you tell me the 3D printing is what?
Well, as a matter of fact, a few years ago, we inducted the inventor of 3D printing, a man by the name of Chuck Hull, who actually founded the company 3D Systems. But, you bring up a good point when you mention 3D printing and what it enables for us today. You look at someone like the inventor Chuck Hull and you look at his story. We're really working to bring the stories of these inductees into the programs of the National Inventors Hall of Fame. So really use their stories, for instance, as inspiration for these kids that are going through the Camp Invention program. So if you've got a kid who's going to camp this summer, Camp Invention, they're probably going to be hearing about different things that these inventors did when they were children. And maybe in some ways it's very similar to what they're going through now.
Is there a trend? Do you hear that from the inventors that are being inducted, that I've been doing this all my life? Ever since I was a kid, I was making things up.
It is very common for us to hear that. And one of the common elements seems to be this hands-on tinkering that they all were involved in. And really this kind of quest for learning and knowledge, even if it wasn't traditional book learning, they were just curious people. So I think, again, they provide real good lessons, and they're ideal role models for kids when they don't even realize that they're being presented with role models.
Right. Parents that are listening, is there something that they should encourage, a type of play for their child that would bring this out? Are Legos good, for example?
Anything that involves or that encourages that kind of open-ended thinking is really going to, I think, stimulate a child's curiosity even more. And again, it's exactly the same message that we hear over and over again from the inductees who we honor.
Camp Invention takes place where and when?
So it will take place at various locations, often schools, across the area. And we actually usually have sites in a number of school districts in the area, Lake local schools, Louisville, Canton, Plain. I think that Perry local schools will host Camp Invention as well. What people need to do is go to the Camp Invention website, which is simply campinvention.org, and there is a registration page where they can click and search by zip code to see if there is a camp location near them.
Age group involved?
So we're looking at kindergarten through 6th grade.
Wow. Okay. Even the little ones.
Even the little ones. I mean, they're in some ways the ones that have the most unencumbered curiosity, and it's fun to see what they do.
What does it look like? Tell us what Camp Invention looks like when you walk in. A little bit chaotic, I hope.
It is a little bit chaotic, and I think that the people who really understand the creative process understand that and embrace that. There are different activities that the kids are involved in each day of the 5-day camp, and throughout the day they'll go to a new classroom and get involved in the activity for that day. And each day builds on the day before it. So by the end of the week, they've come up with an invention, a prototype that they can share with not just everyone around them, but with their families so they can show them what they've accomplished.
Oh, that just has to be such a fun day.
It is fun. And one of the things that we really enjoy doing is taking inductees from the Hall of Fame out to Camp Invention sites and having them see in person what kind of influence their stories are having on the kids. And it's so interesting when you see them actually at a campsite, because some of them will get right down there in it with the kids and start taking things apart or making suggestions to them on how to make something work, or did you ever try looking at it this way? So it takes them back, I think, a little bit to their childhoods, and it's a fun experience for them.
Your job has to be so much fun.
You know what? The variety of people who we meet is really amazing. And yes, it's pretty remarkable when you stop and think about it.
I want to ask you about personality quality that runs through. Is there a trend of an upbeat personality quality for inventors? And here's why I ask that. I think of when Thomas Edison tried to get that light bulb, and it took 1,000 times or something, and he said, I have successfully identified 900 and whatever successful ways not to invent a light bulb, rather than I have failed over and over and over again. It just was a different way of looking at it. Do you see that as a quality that these people hold in common?
Yeah, so you have hit the nail right on the head. Perseverance and determination. I mean, absolutely, you're going to see these qualities in the inductees. And then the other thing you just mentioned was talking about failure being a success. Mm-hmm. So many of these inductees do embrace failure, and they see it as a learning experience to take them to the next level. They don't stop when they, quote, fail at something. They see it as part of the process, and they really learn from what they've done, and they move forward to figure out what the next iteration of their work is going to be.
Don't you find that we learn more from the things that don't work out so well? If I try something and it goes well the first time, I've learned nothing. I don't know what made it go well. But if I try something and it doesn't work, every time I learn one more thing that will make it work. It's a much more positive learning experience. I think failure gets a bad rap. What do you think?
It absolutely gets a bad rap, and it's one of the things, like I said, we talk about all the time. And yes, we emphasize that message for both adults and kids, that failure can be your friend.
So campinvention.org. Awesome. Other educational programs, do you have anything going on in the schools along with this, or is this the main focus?
So we do run other programs for middle school kids and high school kids. But really, I think the one program that I really think people will be interested in hearing about is the Collegiate Inventors Competition. So this is a program for obviously college-age kids. And this is where we encourage them, either undergraduate or graduate students, to submit online their work, and it ends up being evaluated and judged. And the judges who evaluate their work are actually inductees in the National Inventors Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So it's quite an experience, I think, for kids to be able to know that their work is being considered by world-class inventors.
So a college student who might enter this competition, do they have the opportunity of seeing their invention get created and marketed and out there? Are they given any kind of advice on what to do in the next phase?
So what will end up happening is the students that are selected as finalists, they will have the chance to meet in person with inductees from the Hall of Fame, as well as some other experts. Cool. And while the competition itself doesn't, go through the marketing or the production and marketing process, it's a valuable opportunity for the students to get input on what direction maybe they should go. And then the other thing is that for the winners, there is prize money, so they can use that prize money towards their goals of production and development. and marketing.
So step one would be enter. Get your idea in there in front of experts.
Absolutely. So
how do you do that?
So go to invent.org and look for the ways that that you can enter online.
Perfect. All right. We're going to take a short break. This is so interesting. Loving it.
Good.
Stay with us. You're listening to Our Community.